Welcome back to Mountain Crossroads. Thought I'd do a spread with the 1JJ Swiss and go through a little bit more about using the minor and the minor arcana and the major arcana as a separate entity. For this question, Quern asked, he was contemplating buying equipment to update his business and wanted to know what the prospects were for that. So I'll throw a picture up here of the actual spread, how I developed it. At first, I just throw the one card and that, as you see there, is the hangman upright. Now, if you wanted to approach this as a beginner, just using the majors, you could do that. You could do a 3-card spread on that. I chose just to do, with this method of splitting the deck, this is kind of how I'll do it. It's my way. You can take it for what it is, expand on it, but this is just a simple way and a simple spread. So after throwing that top card of the hangman upright, I interpret the hangman as sacrifice, as punishment. In this case, I interpret it as sacrifice. So to get a better picture of this, I expanded the spread and dealt out from the minor arcana 3 cards and then a final 4th card below. And I interpreted this as, of course, this was a willing sacrifice of his profits, and what it would bring, at least at the onset, would be conflict. I interpreted the Page of Swords here as employees, the Queen of Swords here as sort of middle management, and the Knight of Swords here is just conflict between the two. So we got the whole damn family of swords up here, minus the king, just going at each other. I interpreted this to mean this new equipment would be a training challenge. It would cause conflict between middle management and the employees based on that. And we had the Ten of Swords reversed down here, and I interpreted that as it was going to be a complete disaster for at least the foreseeable future. Now, that seems like a pretty grim picture, and this is a fairly simple spread. This answers the question of what's going to become of this and what it actually is going to embody with our first card at the top of this simple cross of sacrifice. So what does this tell us when we're speaking to our querent? We can tell them, well, I did tell them that this would point to. We need to focus on training on these machines and to transition into it. Keep that in mind, that it may interfere with our production in a negative light. I also cast another card down over top of the Knight of Swords, over top of our problem. And we have, which isn't in the picture, the Nine of Swords. So I interpreted that as, again, reinforcing, okay, we know we've got a training problem that's coming up. We've got to plan ahead for that. In our integration of this, if we choose to take this on as a willing sacrifice, we've got to be wary of training in that, and make sure we get our employees transitioned over well. We get our middle management transitioned over well, that they know this equipment and what it can do, and that we maybe implicate this or integrate this a little at a time, instead of just complete switch over and bring us into chaos. So this is just a basic simple spread that I use to answer that question. These are the cards. That is how I answered it. It was helpful. So as a beginner, now I didn't prescribe any positional meaning to this spread. I just threw it down as I developed a question. And that's the answer that I came to. And there is no really positional. I just, as I laid out the spread and seen the cards, assigned meaning to those positions. That's probably not something you're going to want to do as a beginner. You're going to want to have some kind of position or general spread you use. As you get more used to that, you can adjust that as you will to your own style and own preferences of reading. And as I say, you can just employ this. There's many people that's used nothing but this their entire career. Don't feel any less for doing that. I prefer the entire deck, generally assembled together, but this is a fresh way of doing it. If the mood strikes me to do it in this way, I'll do it in this way. I may throw 3 major arcana. I may use major arcana for the entire spread. It just depends on the question and depends on what I'm seeing in the cards. Keep that in mind as you learn. You'll come to your own conclusions of what works for you and how you like to do things and how you arrive at your answer. And the same goes for the meaning for the cards. You'll define the cards yourself. That's the only way they work for you. Yes, they have general meaning, but in the same way, I wouldn't write a book on how to live your life and give it to you and it worked for you just because it worked for me. It's the same way. You interpret things differently than I do. I interpret them different than you do. But we still get by. We still live. We still prosper. We still, keep that in mind as you're learning. Hopefully this will give you a little better explanation of what I was talking about in my philosophy video. Hope you enjoyed that. Till the next time, keep tossing cards and don't let anybody tell you you can't, because you can. And I appreciate you. Take her easy.